mainit na palakpakan ang mga leader ng ASEAN Social Work Consortium Philippines na sina Father Arnold M. Abelardo, Mr. Ronel Gulimlim, Official Representative of the Area-Based Standards Network, Ms. Rosalinda Camitam, Alternate Representative of the Association of Child Caring Agencies of the Philippines, Incorporated, Ms. Myla S. Gatchalian, President of the Association of DSWD Social Workers, Incorporated, Ms. Sonia Trevino, Official Representative of the Association of Local Social Welfare and Development Officers of the Philippines, Incorporated, Ms. Roslyn Mararak, President of the Association of Medical Social Workers of the Philippines, Ms. Evelyn F. Muniz, President of the DOH League of Medical Social Workers, Ms. Calachuchi Flores Caballes, President of the National Association for Social Work Education, Incorporated, Dr. Jocelyn I. Ilagan, Alternate Representative of the National Council of Social Development, Ms. Anigli Suarez, President of the Philippine Association of Court Social Workers, Incorporated, Mr. Rosauro Luntayao, Official Representative of the Philippine Association of Social Workers, Incorporated, Outgoing ASWC Philippines Chairperson, Gladys Q. Bunao, at incoming ASWC Philippines Chairperson, Consuelo Balbero. Muli, isang masigabong palakpakan para sa mga itunuturing nating leader sa larangan ng social work sa ating bansa. Ibigay po ang inyong pinaka-matatamis na ngiti. Okay, sa bilang na 3. 1, 2, 3. Isang kuha pa muli. 1, 2, 3. Okay, manatili po tayo sa ating mga kinatatayuan para sa isang group photo. At maraming salamat po. Maaari na pong magtungo ang ating mga pinuno sa kanilang mga itinakdang upuan. At bilang pagpapatuloy ng ating programa, inaanyayahan ang lahat na magsitayo para sa isa ni Binibining Eladona M. Agor at susundan ng pag-awit ng Lupang Hinirang.
aming mapagmahal at makapangyarihang Diyos, maraming salamat sa biyayang muling pagkakatipon sa pagdiriwang ng ika-7 taon ng Filipino Social Workers Day. Sa inyong kabutihan, binigyan ninyo kami ng pagkakataong kilalanin at ipagdiwang ang aming propesyon, isang tungkuling puno ng malasakit, integridad at taus-pusong paglilingkod para sa kapwa at para sa bayan. Panginoon, patuloy ninyong pagpalain ang bawat social workers na naririto, palakasin ninyo ang aming loob at gabayan ang aming gawain upang sa kabila ng hamon ng panahon, manatili kaming matatag, tapat at mapagkalinga. Ipinagkakaloob ninyo sa amin ang karunungan at malasakit na kinakailangan upang maitaguyod ang kapakanan ng mga pinakamahihirap at pinakabulnerable sa aming lipunan. Idinadalangin din po namin ang aming mga pinuno mula sa DSWD, sa lokal na pamahalaan at iba pang katuwang ng institusyon. Naway patuloy ninyo silang gabayan sa kanilang pamumuno upang maglingkod ng may puso, malasakit at pananagutan. Panginoon, naway ang pagdiriwang na ito ay maghatid ng panibagong inspirasyon, pagkakaisa at sigla sa aming hanay bilang mga tagapagtaguyod ng karunungan at kagalingang panlipunan. Ang lahat ng ito ay itinataas namin sa inyo. Amen.
Awit ng Pilipinas.
Maaari na pong magsiupo na ang lahat. Maligayang pagdalo sa pagdiriwang ng Filipino Social Workers Day 2025. At ngayon, upang formal na pamunuan ang daloy ng ating pagdiriwang, narito na po sina Ginoong Aljan Purka at Binibining Sofia Jem E. Pangilinan. Salubungin natin sila ng mainit na palakpakan.
Maligayang umaga at maligayang araw ng mga magagawang panlipunang Pilipino. Maraming salamat sa inyong pagdalo. Magandang araw sa iyo, Sofia.
Magandang araw din sa iyo, John. Isang napakasayang araw nito dahil muli nagkasama-sama ang mga magigiting, mahuhusay at mapagmalasakit na social workers mula sa iba't ibang panig ng bansa.
Tama ka riyan, Sofia. Alam mo ba, na 4 na taon na mula nang maideklara ang araw na ito bilang pagpupugay at pagkilala sa mga ambag ng mga Pilipinong social worker sa pagtaguyod ng bansa at kanilang pagtugon sa usaping panlipunan?
Oo, John. Ito ay nabigyang katuparan sa pamamagitan ng paglagda ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte noong June 25, 2021 sa Proclamation No. 1176 na nagtatakda na tuwing June 19 kada taon bilang araw ng mga first responders ng mga silent heroes ng henerasyong ito, ang mga social workers.
Kaya't para sa taong ito, bubuksan natin ang araw na ito sa temang Tibay at Pagkakaisa ng Salinlahi Gamit ang Talino, Husay at Kalinga para sa pagpapanatili ng Kagalingang Pantao. Ang layong pagtibayin ang mga ugnayan at pagtutulungan ng iba't ibang henerasyon ng mga manggagawang panlipunan upang isulong ang kanilang pangmatagalang kagalingan. Binibigyang diin nito ang pagkakaisa, pagkakaunawaan at pagbabahagi ng mga tungkulin upang matiyak na ang lahat, anumang edad, ay may taya sa kaunlaran at katatagan ng lipunan.
Napakagandang pananaw at layunin nito para sa propesyon ng mga manggagawang panlipunan. Ngayon, upang magbigay ng kanyang mensahe ng pagbati, tinatawagan po namin si Regulatory Services and Institutional Development Group Undersecretary Denise Florence Bernos Bragas.
Maraming salamat, Ginoo at Binibini. Although ang aking talumpati po ngayon ay nasa English. Bago po ang lahat, of course, nais kong batiin ang ating mga guest speakers na nasa harap ngayon, ang mga DSWD Execom and MAMCON members, kasama na mga staff ng buong Department of Social Welfare and Development, sa mga officers and members of the different social work organizations, Ma'am Sir, ladies and gentlemen, isang mapagkalingang araw po sa ating lahat. Today, we celebrate the milestone that paved the way for the professionalization of the social work in the Philippines. It was on June 19, 1965 that Republic Act 4373 was enacted to regulate the practice of social work in the Philippines. To acknowledge the important contributions of social workers, I'm profoundly honored and grateful to welcome you all to this momentous event, the 7th Filipino Social Workers Day, and the recognition for the pagkilala sa natatanging kontribusyon sa bayan or Panata Ko sa Bayan Awards on the provision and rewards and incentives to local government units through the local Social Welfare and Development Offices or LSWDO on Social Welfare and Development or SWID local implementation. It is noteworthy that while we celebrate the significant accomplishment of the social work profession, we also highlight the outstanding performance and steadfast commitment, compassion, and courage of the Filipino social workers across all fields of practice. We also recognize the transformative leadership of our local chief executives who have tirelessly championed programs that improve the quality of lives of the people. This year's theme, Tibay at Pagkakaisa ng Salinlahi Gamit ang Talino, Husay at Kalinga para sa Pagpapanatili ng Kagalingang Pantao, is not just a reflection of our shared vision. It propels us to action. It speaks of our reliance, our unity across generations, and our collective power to create transformative change, grounded in integrity, excellence, and compassion. To our dedicated social workers, you are the heart of our nation's social welfare system. You walk alongside the most vulnerable, poor, and disadvantaged sectors, advocate for social justice, and deliver services that uphold human dignity. Your work is the bedrock of inclusive development. To our outstanding local government leaders, your visionary leadership and sincere dedication to the welfare of your communities serve as shining examples of what can be achieved when governance is grounded in empathy and integrity. Your exemplary leadership has been instrumental in bringing effective social welfare and development programs to the communities that need them most. Let this day inspire us to continue strengthening partnerships, deepening our commitment, and building a future where every Filipino achieves their fullest potentials. Let this day be a source of inspiration for all of us to sustain our solidarity, to ignite innovations in our interventions, and uphold the dignity and rights of every person we serve. Today, we do not just celebrate milestones, we celebrate a movement driven by strength and unity of generations committed to preserving and enhancing the well-being of every Filipino with integrity, empathy, and excellence. Dahil ito ang ating panatas sa bayan. Muli, mabuhay ang mga Filipino social workers, mabuhay ang mga lingkod bayan. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Maraming salamat sa inyong mensahe, Undersecretary Bragas. Para naman maghatid ng kanyang mensahe ng pagkakaisa, narito po si ASEAN Social Work Consortium Philippines Chairperson, Gladys Q. Bundao.
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Magandang umaga. Isang maalab at taus-pusong mensahe ng pakiisa ang pinapaabot ko sa inyong lahat sa ngalan ng ASEAN Social Work Consortium Philippines sa pagdiriwang ng ika-7 Filipino Social Workers Day. Pinagpupugayan ko ang ating mga ginagalang na panauhin, kagalang-galang na Undersecretary Denise Bragas, Undersecretary Adonis Sulit, ang aming SOMSWAD, Assistant Secretary Janet Armas, lahat ng opisyal ng DSWD na narito ngayon, ang ating panauhing pangdangal, dating DSWD Secretary at dating Civil Service Commission Chairperson, ang kagalang-galang na Corazon Alma de Leon. Mahal na mahal namin siya sa AKAP. At ikinagagalang na dating Undersecretary Alicia Bala at dating chairperson ng Civil Service Commission. Napakapalad natin dahil nandito sila. At syempre, ang ating mga espesyal na bisita, mga kasapi at leader ng ASEAN Social Work Consortium Philippines, at higit sa lahat, ang ating mga ginagawaran ng parangal, kayo po ang puso ng ating pagdiriwang. Mga Ginoo at Ginang, sa bisa ng proklamasyon na 1176, ginugunita natin tuwing Hunyo 19 ang ambag ng bawat Pilipino social workers sa paghubog ng isang lipunang makatao, makatarungan at may malasakit. Ang ating tema ngayong taon, Tibay at Pagkakaisa ng Salinlahi Gamit ang Talino, Husay at Kalinga para sa pagpapanatili ng Kagalingang Pantao. Ay higit pa sa panawagan, isa itong paninindigan na ang tunay na lakas ng ating propesyon ay nasa ating pagkakaisa bilang isang komunidad. Magkakaiba man sa edad, karanasan o pinanggalingan, tayo ay iisa sa adhikaing maglingkod para sa kabubuti ng bawat Pilipino. Ito ang diwa ng pakikiisa na sa bawat suliranin ng lipunan, may isang manggagawang panlipunan na handang makinig, kumilos, magmahal at magmahal. Sa gitna ng pagbabago, pandemya o sakuna, nananatiling matatag ang ating propesyon. Hindi dahil sa individual na galing, kundi dahil sa sama-samang layunin, damdamin at pagkilos. Bilang chairperson and outgoing chairperson ng ASWC-PH, ako po ay lubos na nagpapasalamat sa bawat isa sa inyo, mula sa mga social workers sa komunidad, ospital, institusyon, LGU, NGO, hanggang sa mga tagapagturo at tagapagsulong ng pulisiya. Ang inyong kabuuang pagkilos ay larawan ng buhay na pakikiisa. Isang pakikiisang nagbibigay pag-asa sa kasalukuyan at gumagabay sa kinabukasan. Sa araw na ito, muli nating pagtibayin ang ating pagkakabuklod. Magsama-sama tayong ipagdiwang ang tagumpay ng ating mga kasamahan. Ginugunita natin ang mga yapak ng ating mga nauna at bigyang lakas natin ang bangog henerasyon ng mga social workers. Mabuhay ang mga manggagawang panglipunan, mabuhay ang pagkakaisa ng salinlahi, mabuhay ang serbisyong panlipunan para sa kagalingang pantao. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Chairperson Dunaw, sa inyong mensahe. Samantala, hinihiling po namin na kayo ay manatili sa entablado. Tinatawagan din po namin sina ASWC Philippines Incoming Chairperson Consuelo Balbero at Undersecretary Denise Florence Bernos Bragas at Undersecretary Adonis P. Sulit para sa ceremonial turnover of chairmanship ng ASWC Philippines. Maraming salamat po. Hinihiling po namin na manatili sa entablado si ASWC Philippines Chairperson Balbero para maghatid ng kanyang acceptance message.
Salamat po. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Lahat po ng mga kagalang-galang sa Department of Social Welfare and the presidents of the organization and all esteemed colleagues in the social work profession. I am really deeply humbled and honored to accept this responsibility as the new president of the ASEAN Social Work Consortium, Philippines. I stand on the legacies that have been built by the former great leaders who paved the way for this consortium. And I really thank you for the vision, the dedication, and the tireless service to the Filipino people. I want to embrace this role not as a position of power, but as of service, to listen, to lead with compassion, and to unite us in advancing the cause of the social work in the ASEAN region. Together, we can elevate the voice of the social workers across ASEAN, strengthen our network, and create a lasting change for the most vulnerable population we serve. Let us move forward hand in hand as united body committed to justice, compassion, and social transformation. Thank you for this opportunity to serve. May we continue to be faithful stewards of the mission we share as social workers and nation builders and agents of hope. Marami pong salamat.
Isang masigabong palakpakan para sa bagong tagapangulo ng ASEAN Social Work Consortium Philippines na si Binibining Consuelo Balbero. Asahan po ninyo ang suporta at pakikiisa ng ASWC Philippines sa inyong termino at pamamahala. At para kay dating ASWC Philippines Chairperson Bunaw, maraming salamat po sa mahusay at buong pusong pagdilingkod at pamumuno sa ASWC Philippines sa nakalipas na taon.
Sa pagkakataon namang ito, atin namang pakinggan ang pangunahing mensahe mula sa dating kalihim ng DSWD at ngayoy gobernador ng Philippine Red Cross, Corazon Alma de Leon.
magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. I am awed sa nakita ko ng development ng mga social workers. And this morning is truly special. Special kahit na may baston ako, ay nandito ako. Bigyan niyo naman ako ng mas bugado. Palakpakan. Unang-unang pasasalamat sa mga nagsalita bago ako. Unang-unang si Yusek Denise, si Gladys Bunaw, ang tumanggap ng pagpapalit ng liderato, si Miss Consuelo Barbero, and of course, ako ngayon nagsasalita sa harap ninyo. Katulad ng nauna sa akin, Ingles ang aking pinrepare, pero hahaluan ko ng ating sariling wika. Good morning to one and all who studied the course on making a difference in the field of social work and currently engage in the practice in the field of changing lives with individuals, families, and communities. The theme itself, Tibay at Pagkakaisa ng Salinlahi Gamit ang Talino, Husay at Kalinga para sa pananatili ng Kagalingang Pantao. Alam niyo, hindi lang Kagalingang Pantao, Kagalingang Panlipunan. Sapagkat kung tao lang iniisip natin, isipin natin, hindi magbabago ang tao kapag hindi magbago ang lipunan. I remember that I was grade 4, even if I was first honor in St. Paul College, but my mother could not afford to pay the 100 pesos for my piano lessons. I had to transfer to another school. That was my first exposure to the meaning of poverty. Kahirapan, hindi makapagbayad sa paaralan. Fast forward, I transferred to Maryknoll College, where I finished my high school and graduated with an award on school spirit, as I learned how to be a volunteer as catechist, and in college, where I took my work, a bachelor of degree in social welfare at the time, hindi social work, social welfare at the University of the Philippines. So from already broad arena to the direct practice of social work. At the time, you needed a master's degree to practice social work. So I left for the United States and studied at the Catholic University of America. And when I returned in 1967, it was already a requirement to take the social work board exam. Awa ng Diyos, naka-examine ako, nakapasa at placer pa din, mababa nga lang. Later, if you don't mind, magkukwento na ako. Later, I had the privilege of having a scholarship which enabled me to acquire a master's degree in public health at the University of Pittsburgh Graduate School in Public Health. Kaya ang social worker can also be in public health. I spent from 1967 to 1992 with the Department of Social Welfare. Kaya utang ko sa DSWD, ang paglaki ko, hindi pagtaas kasi pandak pa rin. Rising in my career until I became DSWD Secretary in 1992 and served as chairman concurrently of the Mount Pinatubo Commission with a budget of 10 billion pesos, all accounted for. Kasi ngayon may issue tayo tungkol sa funding. And in 1995, I was appointed chairman of the Civil Service Commission with a 6-year term which ended in 2001. So nakita nyo na, 2025 na tayo, may katagalan na yung 2001. After retirement, I spent some years teaching at the Asian Social Institute, UP, and Ateneo de Manila University School of Government. Naging estudyante ko si Vico Soto, na mayor ngayon ng Pasig. My claim to fame is that I became president of the UP Social Service Society, the Philippine Association of Social Workers, and Chairman of the Board for Social Workers. Today, we celebrate the education and practice of social work. Now, at age 83, with my name, Corazon, I gave to DSWD my heart. Corazon meaning heart. To the Civil Service Commission, my alma, my soul. And of course, hindi ko ma-turn ng page. Sandali lang. Hindi na kailangan pumalakpak, mag-turn lang ako ng page. And as I always end my talk, I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. What I can do, I ought to do. And by the grace of God, I will do. Bago magtapos, inaanyan po kayong makinig via Facebook, live, tuwing Martes at Sabado, sa programang Bago ang Lahat, mamamayan muna. 5 p.m. on mental health at health justice, tuwing Martes at Sabado on Government and Philippine Quality Award, at pagdinggo, Kalinga mula sa Philippine Red Cross sa Radyo Pilipinas mula alas 3 hanggang ika-4 ng hapon. Maraming salamat sa inyong panyaya na makadaong palad nating manggagawa ng lipunan. Ako, kayo, tayong lahat. At siguro sa pag-end nitong program ninyo ay nais kong sabihin na napakahalaga sa akin ang event na ito. Kaya para sa inyo, isang dasal. Anong dasal na ito? Titingnan ko kung makikita ko. Prayer for the nation. Lord, let me be the change I want to see, to do with strength and wisdom all that needs to be done, and become the hope that I can be. Set me free from my fears and hesitations. Grant me the courage and humility. Fill me with spirit to face the challenge and start the change I long to see. Even if I'm not the light, I can be the spark in faith, service, and communion. Let us start the change we want to see, the change that begins in me, the change that begins in all of us, in all of us, in all of us. Maraming salamat sa inyo lahat.
Maraming salamat sa inyong mensahe, Philippine Red Cross Governor De Leon. Sa puntong ito, atin naman pong pakinggan ang pagtalakay hinggil sa mga pagsubok na kinakaharap ng gawaing panlipunan sa rehiyon. Tinatawagan po natin ang Permanent Philippine Senior Officials Meeting on Social Welfare and Development o SOMSWOD Focal Point at Policy and Plans Group Undersecretary Attorney Adonis P. Sulit.
Pagpupugay para sa former DSWD Secretary and Commission on Civil Service Chair and presently Philippine Red Cross Governor Ma'am Corazon Alma G. De Leon. Of course, kasama rin natin ang former CSC Chair, former ASEAN Deputy Secretary General, at former DSWD Undersecretary Alicia De La Rosa Bala. To DSWD Undersecretary for Regulatory Services and Institutional Development Group, syempre pinangungunahan ni Yusek Denise Florence Bernos Bragas, kasama ang kanyang partner social worker si ASEC Janet P. Armas. So, sa atin pong mga leaders ng ASEAN Social Work Consortium, outgoing President Ms. Gladys Bunao, and the incoming President, Ms. Consuelo Balbero. Our distinguished local chief executives present, my office mates and co-workers in the DSWD who are mostly here, mga bayaning social workers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My position in the DSWD gave me the privilege of representing the Philippines in ASEAN since 2022. One is in the Senior Officials Meeting for ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community, which is called the SOCA, and sometimes representative of the Secretary in ministerial meetings in the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. Very recently, I was designated as the lead of Philippine SOMSWAD. And as we know, by heart, ang pinanggalingan ng ASWC ay sa pamumuno ng ating mga magagaling at magigiting na officials ng Pilipinas at ng DSWD. This designation provides me another opportunity, another platform as a fellow advocate in the shared mission of building a more just, resilient, and compassionate society. In this gathering of similarly minded people committed to service, I am humbled by the collective dedication in this room, dedication to those whose voices are too often unheard and whose needs remain unmet. In my official capacity as representative in important ASEAN bodies, it is an honor to be with you today as we reflect together on the challenges and the promise of social work in the ASEAN region. Let me begin by stating an undeniable truth. Social work is the invisible scaffolding of our societies. Whether in cities or in geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas in the Philippines, kampungs in Malaysia and Brunei, desa in Indonesia, Muban in Thailand, and villages and communities in each of the ASEAN member states, social workers are often the first to respond and the last to leave. And yet, despite the vital role that social workers play, social work in ASEAN continues to face significant challenges that deserve urgent attention and regional cooperation. Allow me to share some of the key challenges confronting the field of social work across the ASEAN region. Challenges that many of you in this room not only recognize, but confront daily in your professional journeys. Across ASEAN, the demands on social protection systems are rising. Yes, there is a growing demand amid limited resources, from the impacts of climate change, protracted displacement, urban poverty, aging population, ni si Chair, mukhang active aging si Chair, to mental health crisis, the complexity of social issues is outpacing the capacity of our current systems. But here's the dilemma. While the problems are multiplying, social work budgets and staffing often remain static, or worse, are reduced during times of austerity. In countries where social workers are few and overstretched, they must often juggle impossible workloads with limited access to supervision, continuing education, and mental health support. ASEAN must therefore prioritize investment in the social service workforce, not only in quantity, but in quality. This includes structured career development pathways, better remuneration, regional exchanges, and protection against burnout and secondary trauma. Another challenge is on invisibility and professional recognition. Despite the sacrifices made by frontline workers, social work remains undervalued in many parts of the region. It is often seen as charity work or volunteerism rather than as a specialized profession rooted in ethical practice, science, and human rights. This lack of recognition translates to policy exclusion. Social workers are not always at the table where laws and budgets are made. This means that voices are not always heard in designing the very programs we implement. That must change, also domestically. We need to collectively advocate for the full professionalization and regulation of social work practice across ASEAN, drawing inspiration from countries that have already passed enabling laws, standards, and licensing systems. Of course, the Philippines is a great example to this. ASEAN can take the lead in promoting mutual recognition of qualifications and regional competency standards, especially as we work toward deeper integration under the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. Then there are challenges regarding inequities in access and reach. The region is home to both rapidly advancing economies and communities struggling with basic social services. This disparity is mirrored in the uneven availability of social workers, ranging from established systems in some ASEAN member states to emerging services in others. In many rural or border areas, social workers are virtually non-existent, leaving entire populations underserved. Let us remember the true test of our development is how we reach the most invisible. The displaced, the disabled, the chronically poor, the indigenous peoples, those affected by disasters, these must be at the center of attention. There are also challenges in responding to emerging vulnerabilities. The digital revolution, for all its benefits, has created new threats. Cyber exploitation of children, online scams targeting the elderly, digital exclusion of the poor. Climate change has intensified the frequency of disasters, placing new demands on disaster risk reduction and humanitarian responses where social workers play an indispensable role. Migration, both within and outside ASEAN, has left many women, children, and older persons vulnerable to abuse, trafficking, and exploitation. These emerging risks require new competencies and intersectoral collaboration. Social workers must be trained not just in case management, but also in digital safety, trauma-informed care, climate resilience, and policy advocacy. Let us institutionalize lifelong learning for social workers. So, social workers will be equipped to navigate a future of uncertainty and change. For the Philippines and for the DSWD Academy is our contribution to the fulfillment of this goal. Another challenge in social work in ASEAN is social work in a region of diverse systems. ASEAN is home to different political systems, legal traditions, and cultural contexts. This diversity is our strength, but it also poses a challenge for regional alignment. How do we create unified responses in child protection, elder care, or disability inclusion when our systems are at different stages? Difficult, right? The answer lies in shared frameworks that respect national sovereignty while moving toward regional convergence. But despite the challenges, we have to respond to the call to action and build the future together. Colleagues and friends, these challenges are significant but not insurmountable. The ASEAN Community Vision 2045 calls for a resilient, inclusive, people-oriented, and people-centered community. That vision cannot be realized without strong social work systems. Hence, let us make the following commitments together as we push it in the Philippines or in the ASEAN. Invest in social service workforce, not just as implementers, but as thought leaders and policy influencers. Elevate the status of social work through professional recognition, legislation, and education. Strengthen social protection. Work towards comprehensive and inclusive social protection systems. For our part, for the DSWD, we have pushed for the passage and adoption of the Philippine Social Protection Plan. This is a successor plan to the plans that I'm sure our predecessors have started. We have pushed for the awareness of social protection in the broader context by having achieved the declaration of September as the Social Protection Month. We should also prepare for future challenges through upskilling, innovation, and technology-driven solutions. And of course, we have to promote regional cooperation through shared standards, knowledge exchange, and solidarity. And perhaps, most importantly, protect the protectors. Social workers, as they say, cannot pour from an empty cup. Let us advocate for policies that support their well-being, dignity, and safety. This is where the important role of the consortium comes in. We recognize that by empowering the ASEAN Social Work Consortium, we are empowering the very agents of change who work tirelessly on the front lines to build stronger, more resilient, and more caring communities. And for this, it deserves the full support of the DSWD. As the SOMSWAD leader, let me assure you that the DSWD is ready to assume its lead convener role in addition to its secretariat function. This will be spearheaded by our Regulatory Services and Institutional Development Group led by USEC Denise Bragas and ASEC Janet P. Armas. In closing, allow me to reiterate that the PH SOMSWAD stands in full solidarity with the ASWC Philippines in fostering a culture of excellence in service of the people to whom we have pledged our unwavering commitment. Mabuhay ang mga Filipino social workers, mabuhay ang ASWC Philippines. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga.
Maraming salamat, Undersecretary Sulit, sa inyong pagbabahagi ng ulat hinggil sa mga pagsubok ng propesyon sa rehiyon. Samantala, naging makabuluhan at mabunga ang taong 2024 para sa lahat ng bumubuo ng ASWC Philippines. Panoorin natin ang maiksing audiovisual presentation na ito at tunghayan ang kanilang mga napagtagumpayan sa nakalipas na taon.
Palakpakan para sa ASWC Philippines para sa kanilang dedikasyon at sipag. Ang aming pagbati sa inyong lahat.
Dumako na po tayo sa bahagi ng ating programa na tiyak inaabangan ng lahat. Ngayong umaga, ating mapakikinggan ang pagbabahagi ng mga bagong kaalaman at pagtatalakay ng mga usapin at mga isyu na may kinalaman sa pagpapaunlad ng profesyon ng mga manggagawang panlipunan.
Umpisahan po natin ang diskusyon na pinamagatang Social Workers in the Military Setting. Ito po ay unang tatalakayin ni Chief Civilian Human Resource Civil Defense Officer 4, Captain Mark Brian M. Miranda, na susundan ni Major City Resmin Ismael Candotan ng Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Okay, so magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Ayan, so my fellow social workers, so magandang umaga po. And of course, sa lahat ng ating participants, medyo siguro nagtataka kayo bakit merong naka-uniform ngayon dito sa inyong harapan. So isa po yan sa mga advocate or ina-advocate po ng Armed Forces of the Philippines is ipakita na kailangan po ng AFP ang mga social worker. So marahil, ito po yung chance para inform kayo na maluwag or bukas po ang pintuan ng military sa mga social worker. At isa po ito sa mga field ng social worker na ngayon po ay ini-start ko na ina-advocate. At the same time, may mga schools na din po akong ini-invite para pumunta at ipakita ano yung ginagawa ng mga military social worker po. Ayan. So, okay. So again, I am tasked to brief you about po the AFP as an organization. Please. Okay. So the scope of my presentation po are shown. We will provide you the bird's eye view kung ano po si Armed Forces of the Philippines. Sino po si AFP? 'Di ba? Usual po kasi nakikita natin pag nakasuot or naka-uniform, sinasabi natin sundalo 'yan. Pero hindi natin anong klase, anong sundalo. 'Di ba? Yun yung palagi natin. And every time nakakasama natin lalo na sa mga operations, activities, community, naka-uniform, sundalo yan. So yun lang yung thinking natin, sundalo yan. Baka hindi po natin nakikita or alam, baka social worker din po yan. Ayan. Okay po. So next please. So let's proceed with the mandate of the AFP. Next please. So the Armed Forces of the Philippines is mandated by our constitutions to protect the people in the state and secure the sovereignty of the state and integrity of the national territory. So nandito po kami, hindi po para mang-pirate po sa mga kanya-kanya nyo pong offices. But gusto namin po ipakita na merong mga career ang social worker po sa military. It's either, later on, i-discuss po yan ng aking kasamahan. Kasi meron po tayong dalawang option sa military ang mga social worker. It's either NUP or the Civilian Human Resource as a military social worker and the uniform personnel katulad po ng kasama ko ngayon. Nakasuot ng uniforme pero social worker po yan. Yan po yung tinatawag nating military social worker. Next please. So another one is the pursuant to mandate. The Armed Forces of the Philippines performs the following functions. First, to defend the territory of the Republic of the Philippines, uphold the sovereignty and support the Constitution. Next, please. So another one, it promotes and advocates the national aims, goals in interest and policies. It also plans, organizes, maintains, and develops and deploy its regular citizens, reserve forces for national security. Likewise, it assists support the national government in national building and performs other functions as may be provided by law or assigned by the higher authorities. Next, please. Okay, as shown po is the command authority. So kung makikita natin po, ayan, the President being the Commander-in-Chief is responsible in providing policy direction. The Secretary of the National Defense is the principal assistant to assist on other matters related to defense missions and the continual transformations of the department of the National Defense. So further, the Chief of Staff is the principal military advisor to the President. It is responsible for the executions of the EAP missions and the prescriptions of the organization, powers, functions, and duties of the various staffs and units of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Next, please. So, our organization. So, on organization po, the Armed Forces of the Philippines consists of general headquarters, the major services, namely the Air Force, Army, and Navy. Okay, so kung mapapansin po natin, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, once na nakakita po tayo ng nakasundalo or naka-uniform, sinasabi kaagad natin sundalo. So, ang military po, meron 3 branch of service po na tinatawag. Yung Philippine Army, Philippine Navy, and Philippine Air Force po. Ayan. Ayan po. So meron po siyang 3 branch of service. So meron po siyang iba't ibang function. Next please. Okay. So the Philippine Army po is a mutual functional force capable for both combat operations and development-related mission. So siya po yung nasa military natin na nasa land. It's more on focus po sa land. Territorial po natin. Next please. Next one, the Philippine Air Force is responsible for the air defense of our country. So kung makikita nyo po, may mga sundalo po tayo, sila po yung mga air pilot natin. It's more on focus on air defense. Philippine Air Force po. Next please. On the other hand, the Philippine Navy is responsible for the naval defense of our archipelago. So yan po yung mga nakikita natin sa dagat. Yan. So, yan po si Philippine Navy. Next po. So, eto po yung mga programs and services po. It's more on developmental and sociological activities and community development-oriented ranges from delivery of limited basic services to implementations of major engineering projects, medical and dental missions or tinatawag po nating MedCap. And kung napapansin nyo po, every time nasa community yung mga social worker, sila po yung mga kasama nyo. Yung mga military doctors po natin, yan, military social worker, kasama po dyan sa treatment, consultations, and other activities po. Next please. And other one is the engineering capability assistance or tinatawag po nating NCAP, the constructions, repair, and infrastructures. Yan po yung mga tumutulong sa atin na mga kasundaluhan na nagpapatayo po yan ng mga school buildings, road infrastructures. Next please. Next po, dito po tayo nagsasama-sama usually in terms of humanitarian assistance na tinatawag po. Disaster preparedness, mitigations and relief response operations or DMRO activities to mobilize the people in times of emergencies po. Next please. Okay, so i-virtual tour ko po. Sino na po ba nakapunta or nakapasok sa Camp Aguinaldo? So yan po yung camp. So virtual tour lang, pero open po. Pwede po kayong mag-visit sa Camp Aguinaldo. So yan po yung general headquarters which is located po sa Camp General Emilio Aguinaldo, Quezon City po. Ayan, so kung MRT, Santolan Station po. Ayan. Next please. And isa sa mga amenities po niya, meron po siyang AFP Museum which now po it's under construction pero open po siya to public lalo na sa mga field exposures na ginagawa po ng mga schools. Next please. Okay, so dito po tayo. Gusto kong bigyan din yung careers ng mga social worker po dito sa military setting po. Ayan. So for the social worker careers, meron po tayong 2 option. Una po, pwede pong uniform personnel na naka-uniform po na social worker kayo. Yan po yung tinatawag nating military social worker or MAC, which is later on po, may deep discussion dyan with Major City po. Yan po. Next is the non-uniform personnel. Ito po yung mga tinatawag nating mga civilian employee or civilian human resource na social worker. More on focus po, it's organizing, stakeholder engagement. Ayan. And the last one po, syempre, yung mga social worker natin na nandito na hindi na aalis sa kanya-kanya nilang mga offices or kung saang unit or department. Merong pangatlong options po kung gusto niyo mapabilang po sa armed forces. Pwede po kayong pumasok as reserve officer, medical social worker, or military administrative corps, or MAC po na tinatawag, katulad po sa amin, which is part po kami ng MAC. Kasama ko po yung dalawa na active military social worker. So pwede po yon. Kahit nasa DSWD po kayo working, pwede po kayong pumasok as reserve officer, as medical admin corps po. Ayan. So, ang tanong po, alam po ang mga tinatanong nyo, ano kaya ang qualifications? Ayan. So, pwede nyo po kami i-message. Ayan. So, hindi po kami nagpa-pirate, hindi po kami nag-ano. Pero, open po ang armed forces. Unang-una, ang requirements po as a reserve, any allied health. So, pag sinabi pong any allied health, corresponding po na merong eligibility, kasama po dyan ang social worker. Ayan. So, isa po yan sa mga profession na hinahanap po namin sa Armed Forces of the Philippines. With commission training po na meron at least background on ROTC. Or at the same time, as long as na may PRC, pwede po later on magkakaroon din kayo ng basic training naman po. Pero hindi siya maapektuhan yung trabaho nyo sa offices nyo or kung saan field po kayo. And of course, not more than 65-year-old. Siyempre, kasi po, merong mga basic trainings na ipapagawa din. Okay? So, ganun po, in time of commissionship. So, meron bang willing na mag-reserve? Ayan. So, kung meron man po, later on, pwede po natin pag-usapan. Ayan. So, next. Ayan po, eto po, later on, i-discuss po siya ng aking kasama, si Major City. So, later on, yan po yung medical administrative. So, isa po, bakit namin hina-highlight, isa po sa mga course na hinahanap po ni Armed Forces of the Philippines is the social worker. Ayan. So, malaki po ang field or kinakailangan po yung urgency ng Armed Forces na kailangan ang mga social workers sa amin po. Ayan. Next, please. Okay. So, as a military social worker, mostly community development, civil defense, and social worker or counselor. Kasi marami po kaming mga hospitals and any camps po, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, meron po kaming mga hospital, ang military camps po. Ayan. Kaya maraming social worker din ang kinakailangan namin. Next, please. Okay, so that would be all my presentation po. So maraming salamat at mabuhay po tayong lahat. Thank you and good morning.
Good morning to my senior social workers, ma'am and sirs. Good morning to my colleagues and other guests present today. Good morning po. Today, I'm blessed and thankful to stand here in front of you. Dati po, sa mga kapwa ko pong social worker and sa mga universities po ako nagtotalk and nagsishare ng aking current designation and position. And now, I'm blessed and thankful that we are invited here dito sa event na ito, which is isa rin sa mga advocacy namin and paraan para po ma-introduce yung social worker in the military setting. So, not for today, but for future po. So, yun po, isa po kayo sa makakatulong na ma-disseminate yung ating profession sa military setting. Yung na-discuss po ni Sir kanina. So, I'm here today to present to you my current designation and to share to you ano po yung mga experience na pinagdaanan ko po bilang social worker in a military setting. So, ako po ay active military. So, mayroon po akong Next po. Yung aking next. Yan. So, yung scope of my presentation. Next. So, currently, I'm working at the Public Health Service Center. Under po siya ng EFP Medical Center. So, nasa hospital setting po ako ngayon. Active po akong military. Unlike po kay Sir, civilian human resource siya, but he is a social worker. So I'm graduated from the Universidad de Manila po, and also got my master's in hospital administration because of my current designation as the admin of the hospital and operation, and also the budget officer. Next. So, ito po yung aming pictures para po makita nyo before we proceed to the training. So si Sir po is hindi nag-undergo ng military training. So ako po ngayon, ito po yung itsura ko po dati. Maitim, maigsi po yung buhok. So kapag nakagraduate po sa military, hindi po siya forever na maigsi po yung hair natin. So may ano naman po, mga proper protocol, etiquettes po na malalaman po natin pag nasa loob na po tayo ng military. Next. So yan, yung aming mga training. So yung pagiging sundalo po, marami po tayong training na pagdadaanan. The basic, pre-entry, basic, then mag-a-advance, mag-GGSC, kung meron po tayo future general social worker. So, hindi lang po tayo second lieutenant, first lieutenant, major, captain, general. So, pwede po tayo maging general in the future. Next. Ayan po. So, tuturuan po tayong yung mga military, ano talaga, yung proficiency. So, dapat po alam natin yon. Kasi bilang social worker, hindi lang po tayo sa opisina. So dapat alam din po natin kung ano po yung pinagdadaanan ng mga kapwa nating sundalo nandun sa remote areas. So ma-feel natin kung ano yung pinagdadaanan nila. Kaya po yan, pinagdadaanan namin po yun. Next. So this is my current organizational structure po sa Public Health Service Center. So currently, I'm the admin and personnel, chief of the admin personnel, also the plans, operation and training, and the logistics, and also the financial management branch. So our core approach is the 3 branches, which is headed by the military doctors, also the military nurses, and civilian nurses. So sa aming organization, hindi lang po social workers, so meron din po tayong mga kasamang ibang mga military profession, medical profession. Next. So this is my roles, duties, and responsibilities. Next. So number 1, bilang isang admin and personnel operation officer, so we conduct also the recruitment for the hospital and also conduct supervision for all the communication. So napakahalaga po bilang social worker na matutunan natin yung pagdating po sa admin, policy, plans. Kasi ito po, ma-apply po natin sa military setting po. Next. Yan, so bilang operations officer, we conduct several activities, not only within our unit po sa military, sa hospital, but also we conduct collaboration outside our organization. Sa mga stakeholders, we conduct ganyan po. Kasi yung public health po and bilang social worker, we are also the program manager of the EFP HIV program in all the military treatment facilities from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And also, we advocate yung mental health program po sa EFP. That's number 1 po. that will be aligned to the scorecard of our Chief of Staff na diniscuss po kanina ni Sir. Next. So yan po, we also have engagement, international engagement. So bilang social worker, we expose also to the international engagement activities to promote multilateral security cooperation and health diplomacy, advance military-civilian global health initiative, and generate research opportunities. So yan po siya. Next. Yan, so within our camp, we conduct also health fair and also the caravans. So yung mga natutunan ko po nung college and also yung experience ko sa DSWD din noon, na-apply ko po siya sa military setting po. Next. So ayan, we also fiscalize the utilization of our financial resources and recommends adjustment to ensure efficient use of available resources. So yung mga nakikita nyo po dun sa social media, like po sa budgeting, so we involved po doon sa presentation po ng budget. So dapat po maalam din po tayo financially kung paano po yung process flow ng procurement and budget po. Lalo na po yung RA 9185 po, mga ganun po. Next. Next po. So yan, we also attended individual training and convention to sustain and further improve our professionals' capability, competences for the benefit of the unit and organization. So sa military po, hindi lang din po napapabayaan yung secondary responsibilities namin, which is the social worker, bilang social worker. Nagkakaroon din po kami ng mga individual training and unit training to continue our professional growth po sa military. Next. Ayan, so yung sinabi ko po kanina, mayroon po tayong promotion. Mas mabilis po ang promotion sa military, unlike po sa civilian po. Next po. So, hindi lang po trabaho yung ginagawa namin sa military setting, yung kaninang pinakita ko po. We also conduct quarterly socials to uplift our moral and welfare of the EFP personnel. Napakahalaga po yan, yung socialization to our moral and welfare po. Next. Yan, we also conduct team building activities and sport fest to build camaraderie and promoting wellness. Next. Also, we conduct quarterly proficiency firing and physical fitness test. So, hindi lang po pre-entry during training or schooling. So, quarterly po, nagkakandak po talaga ng para hindi natin nakakalimutan yung ating pagiging sundalo po. Next. Yan, so nagkakaroon po ng awarding din po sa EFP to recognize po yung mga efforts po ng ating mga kasundaluhan. Next. Yan. So, what is our values? Sa military setting po, meron kaming 3 core values, which is the honor, service, and patriotism. So, same din po sa ating social work core values. Hindi po siya nagkakalayo. Meron po tayong service, social justice, dignity and worth of the person, importance of human relationship, integrity, and competencies. Next. So, ito po yung 4 steps to guide to become a MAC officer. Yung kaninang pinresent po ni Sir is 3 major service. The Army, Air Force, and Navy. So kami po ay wala po doon sa 3 major service. Kami po ay technical administrative service na pwedeng maging Air Force, pwedeng maging Navy, pwedeng maging Army. So pwede po tayong pumasok doon sa 3 branch kung saan po kayo assign. Ganun po siya. Next. Yan po, yung process po ng namin, mga qualification and requirements. So, review of qualification, yung eligibility list po natin. So, meron po tayong mga QR code doon po sa registration area para po mas ma-enlighten po kayo, sir, ma'am. So, yung preparation of documents, submission of folders, post-submission process. So, ayan po yung mga yung mga steps po, 4 steps to easily makapasok po bilang sundalo po. Hindi po kayo, pero yung mga anak po natin, pwede po, and mga friends po. Next. So, step 1, check your qualification. Ito yon. So, yung dapat Filipino with good moral character. So, may height requirements din po tayo, both female and male, and also the age limit. So at least 21 to 27 years old. And must be holder of bachelor degree under the allied health medical courses. Next. Yan. So today po, ang Medical Administrative Corps po ay focus, and also the priority of our recruitment is the social worker. Kasi part po siya ng social, last po. Previous slide po, thank you. Yan. So part ng social sciences, yung social work, kaya po siya ngayon priority because of the scorecard of our Chief of Staff aligned to the mental health and HIV program. So ang mga social worker po and psychologist yung ating mga program manager. Next. Yan, so step 2, prepare your documents. Next. Step 3, submission of folders po. Proceed to the Office of the Surgeon General. Yung pinakita po ni Sir kanina na picture, doon po yung aming opisina. And also the building is the Bulwagang Valdez. So malapit lang po ito, sa Quezon City lang po ito. Next. Post-submission. So yun, after the submission of your folders, so ensure that your declared signified phone number is always reached for updates. Kasi may mga special exams din po, and also the schedule of physical fitness test, conduct board interview, may mga board interview, process of clearances, also mag-undergo po siya ng medical examination and psychological examination. Next. Frequently asked questions. So next, number 1, do you accept nurses? So sa Medical Administrative Corps, hindi po kami nag-accept ng nurses. Kasi meron din po silang corps, which is the nurse corps. So sila po yung ating mga military nurses. Do you accept doctors? No, but we have military surgeon in the EFP, the medical corps. Sila po yung ating mga military doctors. Do you have age and height waivers? There is no age nor height waivers po. Do you accept applicants more than 20 years old? No, before the age limit was 25 years old, with the new enacted law po, we are now accepting folders for applicant up to age 28. However, you may apply as a reservist through EFP Reserve Command. So kung ano po, maabutan po ng age, pwede po tayo maging reservist. Lapitan nyo lang po si Sir Mark. Are tattoos allowed? So hindi po allowed po yung may mga tattoo po. Have children but married can still apply. So applicant must be single and has never been born on certain of the child. So yun po, bawal po. Am I still an intern or student, but I want to apply where I can submit my application. Service in the EFP as a medical administrative corps requires experience. This is not an entry level po siya. So 1 year professional working experience lang po yung kailangan. Do you accept online application? So meron po tayong mga online application po. May page po ang MAC po. Next. Is military training required? Yes, so yung kaninang mga pinakita ko po, kailangan po ng pre-entry training. Mandatory po yun siya. What is my rank upon entry? So during my entry po, second lieutenant po, provisionary second lieutenant, and mako-commission po, then magiging regular officer po siya, second lieutenant. So ito po yung salary, gross pay. So pag second, P2LT ko po is 45,000. Pag second lieutenant ka na po is 51. So yung sahod ko po ngayon as major, ipapakita ko na lang mamaya. Lapitan nyo na lang ako. So hindi lang po siya sweldo yung ano namin. May mga ibang ano po tayo, privileges din po. Hindi lang yung sweldo. Yes. So may mga perks po tayo doon sa loob ng military. May libre po tayong quarters, di ba? Hindi ka na po magre-rent sa labas. At hindi ka na po makikipagsapalaran sa EDSA, sa traffic, kasi doon na po tayo, kumbaga stay in. Pwede ka rin pong umuwi. Ganun po siya. Next po. So next. Yan. What are the other benefits? Ito yon. So may mga benefits din po tayo for the hospitalization. Kapag po military kayo o reservist, libre po kayo sa mga military treatment facilities. Hindi lang po sa Viluna, meron din po tayo sa Bisaya, sa Cebu, and sa Mindanao, at sa NCR, meron po tayo sa Villamor. Sa lahat po, marami po tayong mga ospital. So, libre po yon kapag kayo po ay sundalo. Hindi lang po kayo, pati po yung magulang nyo, yung asawa nyo, at yung mga anak nyo po, libre po yan, ma'am. Yan po yung mga benefits. So, hindi na mababawasan yung sweldo mo. Pagkain na lang. Next. Yan. Next. Before I end my presentation, sir, I want to highlight this po. Whether you find yourself in a school, a hospital, a family's home, or a community center, remember that the impact you make as a social worker is immeasurable po. Thank you po. Good morning.
Maraming salamat Captain Miranda at Major Candotan sa pagbabahagi ng kasalukuyang estado ng mga social workers sa Sandatahang Lakas ng Pilipinas. Ang ating namang susunod na mapapakinggan ay tungkol sa mga karanasan ng mga manggagawang palipunan na kumakatawan sa ASEAN community. Upang talakayin ito, narito po si dating Civil Service Commission Chairperson at Deputy Secretary General for ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community, Ms. Alicia de la Rosa Bala.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. And it's my pleasure to be with social workers around, and the number of us have been through a lot of challenges. Alam ko sa inyong lahat, marami na kayong napagdaanan bilang isang social worker, pero ako tuwan-tuwa at nagkaroon tayo ng isang panauhin pandangal na nagsasalita tungkol sa kanyang karanasan bilang isang military social worker. Ang hirap kaya yun, kaya lang, congratulations Ma'am City. I mean, you made it through. Imagine, hindi lang siya social worker, pero ang pinakahirap na parte ay yung pagiging military at underwent all the preparations for her to become a military social worker. It's not just being a social worker, but I think the grit of a woman to bear all this is something that we should be proud of. Palakpakan naman natin. Marami nang nagkokonsulta sa kanya. Kaya lang nakita ko, Sir, Ma'am, parang may discriminatory. Kasi may age 28, tapos single. Not one of you will qualify already.
Kasi 28 daw yung when you first enter. Okay, gusto kong pasalamat sa DSWD for inviting me as one of your speakers today in celebration of our day, the Social Workers Day. And I'm very happy that we are being acknowledged and recognized for the contributions of the social workers in any field of work that we are doing. Whether you are in the department, in the courts, in the local government units, or in education and all that stuff, I think we must be in everywhere. And congratulations, Gladys, for completing your term as the chairperson of the ASEAN. Nakakahiya. Did you know that it was during my term when it was approved by the ASEAN? And let me acknowledge the brains behind the creation of the ASEAN Consortium, NASWay. Ma'am, Dean, congratulations, the former president, or you're still the president of NASWay. So sila, at the time, the president was the dean of the College of Social Work and Community Development at UP, si Dr. Huwag mo sabihin may memory lapse na ako. No, I'm just joking. Romy Queta, the late Romy Queta. So I think we should acknowledge who introduced to the ASEAN, and I was the only one who pushed for it. It was the time when the Philippines was the chair of the social welfare and community development in the region. Well, I prepared a presentation. Pasensya na kayo kasi akong gumawa, pero ang nag-ayos yung anak ko. Just to let you know, yung sabi nga kanina ni Yusek Ado na digital. Did you know that when I was with DSWD, nung hindi pa ako, director ako noon, our secretary then was no less than the vice president, GMA. And it just so happened that she went to one of the bureaus and she was asking for a report. And nobody was able to retrieve the report because it was still in the computer. So sabi niya kagad, kailangan one of your KPI, Key Performance Indicators. I don't know, hindi pa siguro si Janet, hindi pa siya director at that time. Nataranta lahat kami. Paano kaya magawa ng presentation using the computer? Lalo na yung mga mas may edad na sa amin at that time. Medyo bata-bata pa ako noon. I was one of those who was sent to attend computer lessons at Ateneo de Manila. One day, absent na kami. The following day, exams na kagad. Open book, wala pa rin kaming alam. And we were very, kind of, ano kaya ito? Tapos nung pa-end na, ang sabi, 3 things will happen. 1, if you get a proficiency, you receive a certificate. If you made it, parang kumbaga 75, passing, meron. Pag wala kang matanggap, pasensyahan na lang. It was a reckoning. Of course, hindi nila binigay sa amin at the end of the course. Pinadala sa opisina. And lo and behold, I got it. O, di ba? So, pero after many years of not using computer, preparing PowerPoint, I must have forgotten how to do it the right way. So I had to ask my son to do it for me. But the content, it was me. Okay, anyway. Working in ASEAN is one of the highlights of my career as a social worker. I never dreamt about it. Why? Because in ASEAN socio-cultural community, you have about 16 sectoral bodies attending, represented by the different undersecretaries or assistant secretaries. And so when Secretary Dinky at the time received the letter telling us that I was chosen to be the representative of the Philippines to take over the previous Deputy Secretary General for ASCC. I must tell you that I was kind of, am I ready to do it? Because it's not just social work, social welfare, but all the sectoral bodies, 16 to be exact. And so I said, so Secretary Dinky said, gumawa ka na ng letter of acceptance. But did you know I had two? One is acceptance and one is the DSWD needs me. And so when I submitted to Secretary Dinky, hindi pwede, Alice. Ma'am, kayo ho ang mag-decide. Sabi niya, no, this is your personal growth. This is not something that the secretary will tell you what to choose. And so I said, hindi pa ako kontento. I have to consult my family. My husband said, why not? My eldest son, it's about time to get out of DSWD after many years. I was already to how many years? I joined DSWD 1975. O, di ba? I spent 36 years of my government service in the DSWD. I grew up. Kaya nga si boss, ang panawag namin kay Secretary De Leon, boss. Kasi to me, she was and she still is the very essence of who a social worker should be. So, she was my, siguro hindi niya alam, siya yung aking idol actually sa DSWD noong araw. And when I had some problem, siya rin ang lumapit at kinausap din niya ako. Anyway, my eldest son said, go, mommy. It's, you know, my second, ang sabi niya, di ba mommy, sa Indonesia, parating naglilindol at saka yan ang maraming mga terorista. And then my youngest, the girl, Mami, kung wala ka na, sino nang kasama ko? Eh sabi ko, naman si daddy mo tsaka si kuya. Eh mga lalaki yan eh. But after a while, I wanted to have a sign whether I will accept it or not. Last. And then here comes our former USEC. I don't know, I'm sure, sabi nga ni ma'am, ay si boss, Alice, wala na akong kilala dito. Ma'am, kung wala ka nang kilala, susunod ako na rin yun. Kilala ko lang sina Janet. Of course, Yusek, ato kasi nakasama ko siya noon sa meeting nung nandun ako sa, Civil Service Commission and all that stuff. So halos wala na talaga akong, sa totoo lang, yung aming edad, yung age, ay talagang retired na talaga, di ba kami? But I'm happy that ako talaga, tingnan mo si boss, 83 na. Ako, 10 taon mas bata sa kanya. O, di ba? So, parang ano talaga, wala na yung henerasyon namin, nauubos na. Ibig sabihin, it's talagang totally retired and all what. So, former USEC ng BFC, si Flora Eufemio. Lo and behold, tumawag siya, hey, I want you to be nominated to the UN Committee on Child Rights, no? Sabi ko, ay ma'am, you're just the right person. This is the sign. Sabi ko, ma'am, sorry, pero na-offer sa akin ang ASEAN. Huwag ka na sa ASEAN, secretariat lang yan. Ito UN. New York ka-base. Sabi ko, ma'am, bata pa ako. Pero hindi na ako bata at that time. So sabi ko sa kanya, sige, ma'am, you answered my prayers. So that made it my decision to accept ASEAN. I could have gone to UN, but I choose to be nearer to the Philippines, and that's ASEAN. So yun yung aking history kung bakit ako nasa ASEAN. Hindi ako nag-apply. Amongst the 16 USECs and ASECs representing the Philippines, I don't know what made DFA choose me. So sabi ko, it's God's plan. I don't want to say it's lucky, but it must have been God's plan for me to expand. And I am the first social worker to be the Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN. And I'm very proud of it, being a social worker. Okay, much ado with my introduction about my career. First, just to give you, next, ano na yun? Okay, just to give you a glimpse of what ASEAN is all about. If you read, I will not read it anymore, but just go through it. It is really very related to the work that we do. Social justice, protection, human rights, and also, respecting diversity. Okay. Ito, yung sabi kanina ni Yusek, sabi ko, nung una pa, people-oriented na, people-centered pa rin. Dati na yon, kaya akala ko nagbago kasi 2045 na. Pero did you know that when we were preparing the ASEAN Vision 2025 and the blueprint for ASEAN Sociocultural Community, I always ask, what does it mean to be people-oriented and people-centered? Later on, I will explain it to you. Okay, next. So well-being, livelihood, etc. So I think it's really very near to our heart, right? Next, please. Okay. So again, the principles, no? Adherence to the rule of law, good governance, protection of human rights, and the promotion of social justice. Isn't it that's one of the core values of social workers, right? So it's really aligned with what ASEAN wants to be. And these are the basic principles. So regional peace, collective responsibility. Okay, next. So ito na yung functions. As usual, pag sinabi mong deputy, pangalawa ka lang. So if you would note, assist the Secretary General, acts in the Secretary General's absence, coordinates secretaries' activities, represents ASEAN, strategic planning and implementation of the blueprint for ASEAN sociocultural and specific community. Just wanted you to know, the right way to pronounce is ASEAN. The first time I joined them, when I took my oath, so instant, sabi nung SecGen, Alicia, you may want to say something. So I said, I'm very happy to become part of ASEAN. And then the Deputy Secretary General for Political and Security, after that, she didn't want me to be embarrassed. Sabi niya, Alicia, you pronounce it ASEAN. Okay. Kasi nga yung in-emphasize ko pa, ASEAN. O, di ba? So there's also other. And then, of course, ensures efficiency because we are also getting budget, and then supports the SecGen in operations and policy matters, and of course, handles any assignment given to me by the Secretary General. Okay, I'm saying that these are the sectoral bodies. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, eto. So lahat yan, ha? Culture and arts, culture and information, media, women and children, rural development and poverty, social welfare and development, labor, specifically migrant workers, science and technology. At that time when I was there, science and technology was part of socio-cultural community. But before or after I left, it was already turned over to the economic sector. And civil service, education, youth, sports, health, environment, at the time climate change. And the issue in ASEAN at that time was the transboundary haze pollution. For those who are from Palawan, meron ba taga Palawan dito? You were affected because of the burning of the forests in Indonesia. So it became a big issue in ASEAN at that time, and it almost caused, some friendship among the member states. And then of course, pati biodiversity, nasa atin ang ASEAN Center for Biodiversity. That's the only center hosted by the Philippines on behalf of ASEAN. And then also the peatland. Ito yung, I do remember when I was there, a group of ASEAN member states went to Mindanao, specifically in Cotabato, because of that. There's this big peatland there. And then of course, disaster management and humanitarian assistance. So my experiences as a general, the Deputy Secretary General of as a social worker in ASEAN, I always put it many first in ASEAN. Okay, why is it many first? One, during Typhoon Haiyan or Yolanda, I was seated at home in my apartment, and then that's when I saw how devastating Typhoon Yolanda was. And so I said, I have to revisit who is in charge amongst us. Of course, the Deputy Secretary General, but what is the role of the ASEAN? After the big event in Myanmar, Nargis, the Secretary General was appointed to become the coordinator for assistance, for humanitarian assistance. But it was never formalized, and so it was something that was never performed after the last Secretary General. And why it became the first? Through my initiative, I talked to the members of the Committee of Permanent Representatives through our ambassador. They call it the Committee for Permanent Representatives, but actually they are supposed to be the ambassadors to ASEAN. And so our ambassador to ASEAN agreed with me, and so we called for a pre-conference to bring in potential partners that will support the efforts of the Philippines in the recovery, not necessarily in the first stage, because we always go there, right? And there was a second conference that was held in the Philippines, and this was already co-convened by, the co-conveners are ASEAN, Department of Foreign Affairs, and the Office of the Presidential Assistant for Rehabilitation and Recovery. And at that time, it was in the person of now the re-elected Senator Ping Lacson. Okay, and most of the participants were international in nature. We have the World Bank, ADB, and then UN bodies, the regional non-government organizations, local chief executives, and members of the diplomatic corps of ASEAN member states. And you know what? That's why I'm very proud of it, because my Secretary General was supportive. When we were able to mobilize resources, we brought in the team from ASEAN Secretariat. Our team from the socio-cultural and also from the other pillars. Because there are 3 pillars, by the way. ASEAN Political and Security Community Pillar. You have the ASEAN Economic Community and the socio-cultural community. And the first time that the ASEAN adopted or worked with local communities in anything that they do whenever there were disasters in previous years in other countries. And they call it, we have an a municipality for resilient recovery. What made this? Because we integrated the systems of building back better, safer, and smarter communities. So I think this is one of the things that we need to be prepared, especially in Metro Manila, the big one, okay? Building back better, safer, and smarter communities. And this became as a model not only in the ASEAN, but in the entire world. And this is one of the things I'm very proud of during my term. And you know what? This is one we mobilize expertise to help us craft a local a comprehensive land use that integrated disaster risk management. We turned it over to NEDA because at that time, NEDA was responsible for the rehabilitation and recovery. And the next time when I was here, I asked, where's that document we submitted? Because we wanted that this should be adopted by the National Disaster Risk Reduction Committee at that time. But I don't know where that document is because it gave us a sense of being prepared at any given time. So I hope DSWD, if you can try to get a piece, if not, you can ask USEC Ado to get a copy from the Secretariat. Because it was a work where participated by the 4 mayors, at least 3 mayors, kasi yung isa hindi dumating. Yung mayor ng Palo, I must tell you, she sat down with us until the document was completed. Yung nanay ni Palo at the time, who's the hindi Romualdez. Basta, Petillas, yes. Petilla. Yes. She really sat down with us and she gave a very good ideas on how best we can move forward. And she was very happy. As I've said, this is the first time that ASEAN engaged. Usually, ASEAN was only engaged in relief operations, but never in the recovery and rehabilitation. And our SecGen, we went to the site first, and siguro hindi ko nasasabihin na yung satellite phone ng dala-dala ng ASEAN, yun ang ginamit ng mga secretaries on the ground to communicate with the President. Okay? So, yun yung sabi nung aking mga son, DSG, how do you know why you have to be like this? Sabi ko, di ba, Philippines, sabi ko, every year we have experienced about 24 typhoons in the country. Kaya nga, nung nagkaroon ng malaking baha because of hours and hours of rains in Malaysia, I volunteered go to the Philippines kasi they cannot give the donation because isolated na yung isang island doon sa Malaysia. Sabi ko, you ask our military men, they know how to do it. They just drop, using helicopters for them to get all these immediate needs. Okay. Next. Ito. This is one again. The ASEAN Summit adopted the declaration institutionalizing the resilience of ASEAN and its communities and peoples to disasters and climate change. And again, this was acknowledged globally as the first regional initiative in response to the Sendai Framework for Disaster and Reduction that was held in 2015, just before I left, March. And I was lucky enough because I was invited to become part of the working group of the UN team. And one of the things that I wanted to include in that guidelines would be when we do humanitarian assistance, the dignity of the victims and survivors should be upheld. And I'm very happy that they also acknowledge it, that the human being should be respected, even at the time of disasters. So we put that in the text, the dignity. Okay. And then another one is the adoption and declaration on strengthening the social protection in the region. So I'm very happy to hear that social protection should be expanded. You know, when I joined them, two things lang talaga ang nasa isip ko na as a Deputy Secretary General. One is to promote social protection in the region because of our own experience. The second is to make sure that the issue of women, children should be highlighted. And true to form, before I left, we have a social protection in ASEAN, was adopted, and that was the first time that cross-sectoral, meaning I involved the representatives from the political and security and the economic to be part of this social protection. So it gives me a sense of pride as a social worker doing this. Okay. Another one is I was a member of the high-level task force on strengthening the ASEAN Secretariat. And I must say that as a result of this, I was able to increase the number of staff. Imagine 15 sectoral bodies, and yet we have the least number of staff in ASEAN. And so, you know what I did to be able to get the support of ASEAN? I had to visit all the permanent representatives, the ambassadors of ASEAN. I have to meet with them and telling them that the ASEAN socio-cultural community is the heart and soul of ASEAN. It's not, because everybody who works in the political security, in the economic, these are all human beings. And so therefore, we need to make sure that the ASEAN socio-cultural community should be given more attention. So it paid off. Even our budget was increased. Because I made a different way of presentation, because when I asked, how do you make the presentation? They would immediately present the budget and all that. And I said, no. We have to make the CPR, the Committee of Permanent Representatives, to understand how our money being spent. So sabi ko, you have to go through 3 years assessment of our performance and the budget, and to what extent we need more resources to do more than what you have done even before I joined you. And the way I presented them, it became already the model, and they asked all the other, the other 2 departments to do the same like what we did. So it also brought, greater cross-sectoral collaboration on cross-cutting ASEAN, because this, I understand that was also the first time that one sector involving the political insecurity and all that stuff. Just to give you an example, the issue of the Myanmar, the Rohingya, remember we've been hearing about the Rohingyan from Myanmar would be getting out of Myanmar because of certain, skirmishes and all that stuff. And so the Singaporean ambassador said, Alicia, we can fund any project that the socio-cultural would like to initiate. And so I brought it up with the CPR, and they said, one of the principles in ASEAN, no interference in local matters. And so instead, because I wanted to put it under the disaster assistance and disaster management and humanitarian assistance, but they said no. So they put it under the sector on transportation, because it's the mobility. But I was still happy because at least it brought them to the attention that they should do something about the plight of the Rohingyans. So these, I thought, were the ones that I made some inroads into the ASEAN, the way they do it. And There are other things that I've not written. I just wanted to highlight the many first in ASEAN. But I also had the opportunity to interact with European Union heads. And at the time, the head of the humanitarian assistance became the very president of EU. And I get to be invited as a resource persons in different countries outside of ASEAN, like in UN. And probably the question that you may ask, how did I prepare myself to be in this role as deputy? As I've said, I'm the only one social worker. Most of the Secretary General was president of the UN Council for 2 years. The Deputy Secretary General for Asian Political is an ambassador in different places, and so on and so on. I am not a diplomat. So how did I get to, I did not put it, but I just wanted to share with you that when I was still with DSWD, like Yusek Ado, I was representing ASEAN already. And in times when the secretary is not around, I would also be representing her. The second is my exposure to attending UN meetings, the UN Commission on Women, on the status of women. And there was an instance that we were pushing for the adoption of a UN document for the protection of domestic helpers, migrant workers. And usually when you talk about UN delegation, Philippine delegation, you have other agencies. But at the end of the day, I was left with only the representative from the Philippine Commission on Women and our representative from the UN headquarters. And one of the things that they taught me is about negotiation. So you have to identify, they said, and so I said, what will I do? Who to approach? And then they said, you have to meet with the head of the group of 77, the EU, and then even the ambassador to UN, the Rome, the Catholic representative, and also the African delegation. So I said, you just have to be with me and try to, the key points that I need to observe, because this is a diplomatic something, and I'm a social worker. We don't have any course on diplomacy. But during the time that the presentation already at the UN for the approval of that document, we stood up to 4 o'clock in the morning just to be able to push. And then you know who stood up for us is the group of 77 countries and the EU. ASEAN did not stand with the Philippines' position at the time. We are not yet, I'm not part of ASEAN yet. And they were part of the members of that committee. They never, I do remember 2 of them, I will not tell you who they are, but it really, when I started to, and so and then I was one of the first members of the UN delegation to the Human Rights Council in Geneva. And that was the first time that we represented, and I was party, and I was very happy to tell you that our report was applauded, because at the time the head of delegation of the CES Ermita, pala yun, pag military, like, bago kami umalis ng Pilipinas, para na kaming merong review, paano magsalita, paano present. Nandun na kami sa embassy, naku, pinapakinggan, kailangan when you speak, sabi niya, it should not be more than 3 minutes. So everybody was timed, and lo and behold, we were able to meet the deadline of 3 minutes, and we were surprised. All the members who were present stood up and applauded us. Bakit? Because we were very candid in accepting those observations about, at the time, the missing people and all. Yeah, the usual thing. But I must say that we did it because ES was very, very convincing that yes, we acknowledge your report. We will do something when we get back and we'll give you a feedback. And in the 2 years that I was a member of that delegation, it gave me, that confidence that I can be not necessarily a diplomat, but one of the things, and this is I wanted to tell you that my reflections as a social worker in ASEAN. Okay. I have to research the core values of social worker because I've not been in the circle of social workers except when Roy, when you invited me in Cebu. It rekindled my passion for being part of the PASWI as of a lifetime member. 1, service. To me, create opportunities for improvement of the mechanisms for engagement with target groups and partners. That service. Sabi mo nga, hindi lang dapat direct service. But I think it's about all other aspects of leadership and management. You have to have in control, and you have to make sure that you have that foresight. And so I thought that was the first time that I worked with even the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, just to get support for the socio-cultural community. Never in my whole life I would have that dream to be in this position. And social justice, empowering the ASEAN peoples for the protection of women, children, disabilities. When we were preparing the vision and the blueprint 2025, I was the one who really put even the local communities. But there's one thing I wanted to share with you, that when we were finalizing, one of the terms that we wanted to use is about equality. But lo and behold, from the Philippines said, not equality, equitable. And it took, as a DSG, you cannot control the member states. You can only persuade, right? I think at the time, ASEAN probably may not be as open as gender, women. They didn't want to use the word equality. But at least I was able to bring in local communities, the upland or the minorities, because the term sometimes it makes a lot of difference. Okay. And then later on, he said, okay, maybe next time we should be able to include the concept of equality. And then dignity and worth of the person. Ito na yung people-centered. You were saying, Yusek Ado, about people-centered and people-oriented. The first thing that I asked them, what's the difference between people-centered and people-oriented? Nobody clarified. And so when we prepared our blueprint for 2025, let's make it understandable to the people, to the ASEAN peoples. So how did we define people-oriented, people-centered? People-oriented means you engage with them. They should have ownership being part of ASEAN. Second, people-centered, or people-centered pala yun, sorry. People-centered, it's about engaging. People-oriented, it's about they benefit from all this ASEAN are doing. So it's not something that is selective regardless of the diversity. And then, importance of human relationships. So I think this is one of the things that I have I have built over the years, working with the different sectoral bodies when I was the senior officials for DSWD. So more often than not, I have met them already, even the ministers and all that stuff. So I'm very happy to be part of DSWD. DSWD made me who I am today, and I'm proud to become a professional social worker in its very sense. And to all the young and not so young like us, maybe hindi na nga no? Dahil wala na kami. Kaya nga nung sinabi kanina na 28 yung tapos hindi pwedeng may asawa, single, no? Oo, so eto nga siguro yung kailangan natin, Roy, Cleo, Nasway, Nasway sa education. Kailangan nating ipadama. Ano nga ba ang essence, what is social worker? It's not just about being compassionate. It's about your heart and mind into it. Sabi nyo nga, talino. Di ba? Talino. Let's make our talino be heard globally. Let's start, and I'm very happy that Troy is now a member of the Asia Pacific. Yun na yun. IFSW. Tama ba ako? Oo. Kasi naalala ko nung, I think we were the host when I was still a student. We were Centro Escolar University students being malapit sa Manila Hotel. Kami yung ginawang mga escort ng mga delegates. O, diba? We were trained. Okay. So, yun yung buhay. Nakita nyo? Sabi ko nga, marami pa akong sasabihin, pero I just highlighted the many first that ASEAN adopted during my term. It's not something that I wanted to not to share with you because you and everyone else would have that opportunity to make it happen. Because even the deployment of social welfare attaché, unfortunately, it was already turned over to the Department of Migrant Workers. Pero ewan ko kung tama yung narinig ko na the social workers who's supposed to be the social welfare attaché are now relegated into administrative functions. I'm not sure whether the feedback that I got is correct. But I thought that we're missing the boat. And hopefully we should be able to have a dialogue with the DMW, Yusek Ado and Yusek Denise. If you can initiate, let DSWD be the initiator I understand not all of them were deployed, but they're already performing administrative functions at the central office. So why am I saying this? Because social worker is not just caseworker, group, community, but we are supposed to influence policies, and we need to take that leadership role, considering that we are in the DSWD. And Nasway, the role of really making our social workers to be what a social worker should be. And above all, let's not forget that we have an oath when we pass the exams, right? Ito pa yung kwento ko pala na, nung nag-exams ako, I didn't realize meron palang age requirement. Pero tinanggap ako, Roy. Ngayon nung lumabas yung yung results, walang pangalan. Sabi ng kuya ko, sinabi ko na nga ba, wala kasing ginawa kundi mag-good time nung nag-re-review ka. Sabi ko sa kanya, hindi, pasado ako. Ba't walang pangalan mo dito? Pumunta ako sa PRC. Sabi nila, ma'am, pasado po kayo, kaya lang, wala pa ho kayo sa edad. I think I was almost 20 when I took the board exams. 21 pala nire-release at that time. Kaya, pero sa totoo lang, nataranta din ako na hindi nakalalagay yung pangalan ko doon sa nakapasa. Yung pala, underage. O, di ba? So, yun yung, alam mo, the quirks of being a social worker. It comes and unexpected na alam mo, papasa ka tapos hindi. Di ba? Parang nahiya ako sa sarili ko at nahiya ako doon sa mga kuya ko kasi yung kuya ko board top notcher. Kaya ako, sabi ko, hindi pwede. Nandun naman ako sa kagaya naman ni boss, hindi naman ako top, pero nandun naman ako sa mga, hindi naman sa kababaan. Okay. Anyway, so I hope that you are encouraged for social workers. Do your best and you don't need to flaunt about your job, but the best experience that I've ever had as a social worker was when I became the regional director of National Capital Region. That's where I met Sol and the NCSD and the pillars of social work, si Miss Silva, still around. And I had the opportunity to meet all of them. And so this is what made me a full social worker when I was with NCR, going to every nook and corner of Metro Manila where the urban poor are and everything else happens. So I think, as I've said, dream big, but be on the ground. Because no one can tell whether you're the right one or not. Only God knows. And this is my story as a social worker and in ASEAN. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat, Deputy Secretary General Bala, sa pagbabahagi ng mga karanasan ng ating mga kasamahan sa ASEAN community. Ngayon naman po, inaanyayahan po natin sina Undersecretary Denise Florence Bernos Bragas, Undersecretary Adonis P. Sulit, Assistant Secretary Janet Armas, at Director Attorney Justin Cesar Anthony Batocabe upang ipagkaloob ang mga sertipiko ng pagkilala at munting regalo sa ating mga resource speakers.
Bilang taos-pusong pasasalamat sa kanilang ibinahaging panahon, karanasan at kaalaman, tinatawagan po nating muli si Philippine Red Cross Governor Corazon de Leon. Muli, maraming salamat po, Philippine Red Cross Governor de Leon.
Tinatawagan din po natin sina Captain Mark Brian M. Miranda at Major City Resmin Ismael Candota ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Muli, maraming salamat po, Captain Miranda at Major Candotan.
At panghuli ay si Deputy Secretary General for ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community, Ms. Alicia de la Rosa Bala. Muli, maraming salamat, Deputy Secretary General Bala.
Muli, maraming salamat po sa lahat ng ating mga resource speakers. Maaari na pong magsiupo ang ating mga pinuno. Sa puntong ito, upang ibahagi ang kabuuan ng mga tinalakay at naging kaganapan sa unang bahagi ng ating programa, ngayong umaga, tinatawag po natin si DSWD Academy Director, Attorney Justin Cesar Anthony Batocabe.
Our guests of honor, Secretary Corazon de Leon and USEC Alicia Bala, my principals and colleagues in the DSWD, mayors, LSWDOs, and the social workers. Good day to everyone. The morning discussions highlighted the milestones capturing the significant best practices within the ASEAN community. These achievements not only highlight the organization's local impact, but also its growing influence in contributing to ASEAN-wide social development goals. A particular emerging area in the practice of social work and proof of its versatility as a profession is the integration of social workers in the military settings. The experience of Filipino social workers embedded within the military reveal a unique practice where the principles of social work are applied to support soldiers, their families, and communities through community development, civil defense, and counseling. Thank you, Major City and Captain Mark, for your worthy representation of social work in the Army. The practice of social work in ASEAN, through the invaluable experience of USEC Alicia Bala, offers opportunities to advocate social welfare and development concerns at the macro and international level. Social workers have a key role in promoting social protection in ASEAN countries to protect people from the impact of financial crisis, disasters, health concerns, and other factors. Lastly, we at the DSWD Academy, guided by our principals, Secretary Rex Gatchalian, Yusek Bragas, and ASEC Janet Armas, are honored to provide you this historic venue, the Manila Hotel. This was my personal commitment to the social workers that they deserve a place of celebration, not of caprice or wanton luxury, but commensurate to their role in nation building. Thank you. This morning's events showcases the best of the social workers through knowledge exchange. For this afternoon, we will meet and recognize the persons who serve as exemplars in their practice of the social work profession and the champions of innovative and responsive social welfare and development practices through the Pagkilala sa Natatanging Kontribusyon sa Bayan, Panata Ako sa Bayan Awards. Mabuhay ang manggagawang panlipunan, Mabuhay ang mga lingkod bayan na may panata sa mapagkalingang serbisyo. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Direktor Batocabe, sa pagbabahagi ng buod ng ating programa ngayong umaga. Dito po nagtatapos ang unang bahagi ng ating palatuntunan ngayong araw. Tayo po ay magbabalik mamayang 1:30 ng hapon para sa Panata Ko sa Bayan Awards at 2025 Gawad Parangal sa natatanging